Helen Brooks was not your regular mother. She was rich, very rich. She had more houses than she could count, a personal driver, 3 chefs, and a dog named Chairman, who only ate chicken. But Helen had a problem. Her son, Jason, was still single at 40. And every time she brought up marriage, he acted like she asked him to swallow hot pepper. "I'm not ready, Mum," he would say, running off to his construction site like it was a war zone. The worst part, all the girls who came around only wanted one thing: money. Helen had seen it all: fake crying, fake fainting, fake accents, even a girl who claimed she was allergic to poverty. That one almost got a slap. So Helen came up with a plan, a crazy, dangerous, slightly ridiculous plan. She would become a cleaner. Yes, you heard right. A woman who wore Gucci to go shopping at Bannex was now going to wear rubber slippers and clean toilets, all because she wanted to find the right wife for her son. Her driver nearly crashed the car when she told him. "Madam, are you okay? Should I call Pastor?" "No," Helen said proudly. "Call the dry cleaner. I need old clothes and a strong wig." The next day, Helen showed up at Jason's construction office in Maitama, wearing a long faded skirt, a big shirt that said "Love Jesus," and a wig that looked like it had survived a thunderstorm. Nobody recognized her, not even Jason. He just walked past her and shouted, "Someone clean this place up. It smells like a goat farm." Helen blinked. Goat farm? In her son's office? She almost removed her wig and shouted, "Are you mad?" But she remembered her mission. She was not Helen Brooks, the millionaire today. Today she was just Madam Helen, the cleaner. She picked up her mop and got to work, sort of. She mostly just walked around listening to people and pretending to mop the same corner. That's when she saw Grace. Tall, serious, and wearing a helmet that made her look like a soldier, Grace was shouting at the workers on site. "Why are you pouring cement like it's custard? Is this how you build your future?" Helen smiled. She liked this one already. Grace walked into the office and saw Helen. "Who are you?" she asked, frowning. "I'm the new cleaner," Helen said in her fake low voice. Grace looked her up and down. "You missed a spot," she said, pointing to the floor. Helen smiled sweetly. "Thank you, my dear. I'll clean it right away." As Grace walked away, Helen whispered, "You just passed level 1, my daughter." And just like that, the plan had begun. By the second week, Madame Helen, was a pro at pretending to clean. She had mastered how to lean on the mop like it was a walking stick, nod at people like she understood construction, and sneak meat pie from the office kitchen when no one was looking. But her real job? Watching Grace. Grace was the site supervisor, and she didn't play. Every morning she arrived before anyone else. Every afternoon she shouted like she was the boss of a football team, and every evening she left late, sometimes even carrying files home. The workers were afraid of her. Jason was irritated by her. But Helen was impressed. One day Jason burst into the office, angry like a goat who missed breakfast. "Why did Grace order double cement on the Johnson site?" he shouted. "That's not what we agreed on." "She said the foundation was weak," a staff member replied. "She should have called me first," Jason yelled. Grace walked in at that exact moment, holding a helmet in one hand and a meat pie in the other. "Good afternoon, boss," she said calmly. "Are you shouting because your shirt is tight, or because you didn't read my report?" Jason froze. The office went silent. Even the cleaner's mop paused mid-swipe. Helen coughed loudly, trying to hide her laugh. Jason stared at Grace. "Excuse me." "You're excused," Grace replied, then turned to the others. "Meeting in 5 minutes. Come with working brains." She walked out like a queen. Jason looked like he wanted to cry. Later that day, Helen found Grace eating jollof rice in the break room. "Are you not afraid of your boss?" she asked. Grace chuckled. "Afraid? That boy? Please, if he wants to fire me, he can go ahead. I'm not begging anybody." Helen blinked. "Why not?" "Because I have skills. I can build a house, fix a roof, and still make the best yam porridge you've ever tasted." Helen smiled. This girl was gold. But still, she had to be sure. Do you have a boyfriend? Grace laughed so hard she nearly choked on her rice. Me? Please, I don't have time for men. They either lie, cheat, or have mothers who want to control your life. Helen blinked again. This girl was dangerous. And absolutely perfect. As Helen walked out of the break room, she said to herself, Level 2, passed. But the real test, that one was coming soon. And trust Helen, it was going to be spicy. Helen had now worked as a cleaner for 3 weeks. Her knees hurt, her back ached, and her wig had started leaning to the left. But she didn't care. She had a mission. Operation Make Jason Fall in Love with Grace had officially started. Her plan was simple. Step 1, make sure Jason and Grace spent more time together. Step 2, wait for the magic. Step 3, dance at their wedding. Easy, right? Wrong. Jason and Grace argued more than 2 goats on a single yam. If Grace said, use cement blocks, Jason said, no, use magic sand. If Jason said, let's meet at 10, Grace said, let's meet when the sun is smiling. Even the office printer was tired of them. One morning, Helen stormed into Jason's office with a tray of tea. Good morning, sir, she said sweetly, placing the tray down. Jason blinked. Since when do cleaners bring tea? Helen ignored him. Sir, I think you and Madame Grace need to work together better. You know, teamwork makes the dream work. Jason narrowed his eyes. Why are you always talking about Grace? Are you two planning to kidnap me? Helen gasped. God forbid. I'm just saying, sir. She's smart, strong, and not fake like the others. Jason rolled his eyes. She's loud, rude, and thinks she knows everything. She also said your beard looks nice. Helen lied quickly. Jason paused. She did. Helen nodded, crossing her fingers behind her back. Yes, she said you look like a serious man. Jason sat up straighter. Well, I am serious. Exactly. Later that week, Helen pulled the next part of her plan, lock them in a room together. She accidentally told both Jason and Grace there was a leak in the storage room. When they went inside, she slammed the door and turned the key. Hey, Grace shouted. Mum, Madam Helen, Jason yelled. Are you mad? Helen put on her best shocked face. Oh no, the door must have jammed. Let me find the key. She skipped away, whistling like a Disney bird. Inside the room, Jason and Grace stood in awkward silence. Jason looked at the floor. Grace looked at the ceiling. The air was heavy. Then suddenly, boom! A rat ran across the floor. Jason screamed. Grace jumped into his arms. They both froze. Jason blinked. Did you just... Shut up, Grace said, still holding him. And just like that, the silence turned into laughter. Helen, standing outside the door with her ear pressed to the wall, grinned. Level 3, passed. After the rat incident, something changed. Jason started acting different. He stopped shouting as much. He started dressing better. He even offered to buy meat pie for the whole office. The staff began whispering, Is he okay? Is he in love? Did the rat bite him? But the truth was simple. Jason was confused. He couldn't stop thinking about Grace. The way she held him, the way she laughed, the way she called him bossy pants behind his back. He heard her once, but pretended he didn't. Meanwhile, Helen was dancing in her heart. Her plan was working, or so she thought. One afternoon, she saw Grace looking sad outside the office. She was staring at her phone, frowning like someone who just got a text that said, Congratulations, you have been scammed. Helen walked up to her, still wearing her cleaner disguise. My dear, are you okay? Grace forced a smile. I'm fine. Are you sure? You look like you just swallowed bad eBay. Grace laughed a little. It's just, my rent is due next week, and my younger brother is sick. I've been trying to handle everything alone. Helen's heart sank. She wanted to hug Grace and say, Don't worry, I'm secretly rich. But she couldn't, not yet. Instead, she patted Grace's back and said, Everything will be fine. You're strong. Stronger than you know. Grace smiled. Thanks, Madam Helen. You're the only one here who talks to me like I matter. Helen blinked. What do you mean? Grace sighed. Some people here look down on me because I didn't go to a fancy school, or because I don't wear heels and makeup every day. Helen felt like someone had kicked her in the stomach. These were the exact reasons she wanted a girl like Grace for Jason. But Jason, did he see it? The next day, Helen went into full matchmaking mode. She left a handwritten note on Jason's desk. Some gold shines in silence. Look closer. Jason read it and looked around suspiciously. Is the cleaner now writing poems? But the note did something. That day, Jason offered to drop Grace off at home. Grace said no. The next day, he brought her jollof rice. Grace said no, until she saw plantain. But just when things started to feel sweet, the twist came. Jason walked into Helen's house one evening, yes, his mother's real house, the mansion in Mortimer, and found something strange. There, sitting in the living room, was Grace, wearing jeans, drinking juice, chatting with the dog. Jason's eyes widened. Grace, what are you doing here? Grace jumped up. Wait, you live here? Before Jason could answer, Helen walked in, without her cleaner disguise. Jason gasped. Grace screamed. The dog barked. Helen smiled nervously and said, Well, surprise? Jason fainted. Jason opened his eyes slowly. He was lying on the floor of his mother's luxury living room, staring at the chandelier. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming. Then he sat up and saw Grace. Then he saw his mother. Then he saw the wig on the coffee table. He wasn't dreaming. Can someone explain what is going on? Jason said, rubbing his head like his brain had just done a backflip. Helen stood proudly, hands on her hips like a woman who just finished cooking a pot of jollof for 50 people. I was Madam Helen the cleaner, she announced. Jason blinked. You were the cleaner? Grace was still standing there, her mouth open like she had seen a ghost in lip gloss. Jason turned to her. And you? Why are you in my house? Helen raised one hand. That was me too. I invited her. Jason looked like he was going to faint again. Okay, he said, breathing hard. Someone needs to start from the beginning, slowly, like I'm a 5-year-old in Sunday school. Helen took a deep breath, sat down dramatically, and began. Jason, I was tired of all the fake women chasing you. So I disguised myself as a cleaner in your office to find a good woman, a real woman, someone kind, smart and honest. That's when I found Grace. Jason stared at her. You went undercover, as a cleaner. Helen nodded. I mopped floors with my own hands, Jason. I cleaned toilets. I wore a skirt that smelled like onions. Jason blinked twice. Mum, are you okay? I did it for love, Helen shouted, placing her hand on her chest like she was in a Nollywood movie. Grace was still frozen in place. Jason turned to her. And you? You didn't know she was my mum? Grace shook her head. I thought she was just a sweet, nosy cleaner who liked asking me about my love life. Jason frowned. And why were you in my mum's house today? Helen smiled. I invited her for lunch, to finally tell her the truth. We were bonding over juice and gossip before you rudely entered and collapsed like a bag of cement. Jason rubbed his face. So you planned all of this for me to fall in love? Helen grinned. Yes, and if you don't marry Grace, I will disown you and leave all my property to the dog. The dog barked in support. Jason looked at Grace. She looked back. There was a long pause. Then Grace said, This is the craziest thing that has ever happened to me. Jason laughed. You think you're confused? My mother just catfished me in real life. They both laughed, and somehow the tension broke like glass. Jason sighed. So, what now? Helen stood. Now, I leave you two alone to talk. No pressure, just remember the dog is getting everything if you mess this up. She picked up her wig, placed it gently on her head. backwards by mistake and marched out proudly. Jason and Grace were quiet for a moment. Then Jason said, "So, did you really say my beard looks nice?" Grace smirked. Numbers, she made that up. Jason laughed. "Okay, I deserved that." There was another pause. Then Grace stepped closer. "But I do think you're not as bad as I thought." Jason smiled. "I'll take that as progress." She smiled back. "And I guess if your mum thinks I'm good enough for you, maybe you are worth knowing better." Jason held out his hand. "So, lunch. No lies, no disguises, no mop." Grace took his hand. "Only if there's plantain." Just then, Helen peeked from the hallway, holding her phone. "Smile, both of you. I'm recording this for the wedding slideshow." Jason groaned. Grace laughed. The dog barked again. And just like that, between wigs, mops, rats, secrets, and meat pie, love finally found its way into the hearts of two stubborn people. All thanks to one dramatic mother, a wild plan, and a mop that was never used properly. If this story made you laugh, smile, or scream, what? At least once. Don't keep the fun to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe for more juicy, dramatic, and downright hilarious tales just like this one. And remember, sometimes the cleaner might just be the millionaire, and the mop might be a matchmaker. See you in the next story.